This video is brought to you by Dr. Kristen R. Bromley's Guitar Method Book Series and Online Music Academy.
Hi, I'm Dr. Kristen Bromley. Welcome to my online academy. It sure is great being here helping you with playing the guitar. In this mini course, it's all about finger picking. So in this lesson, which is lesson 1, I'm going to go over just a little bit of the technique on how we do that, and then we're going to get started with a finger picking pattern and practice that with a chord progression. Now in this finger picking mini course, I am assuming you already know how to play the basic chords. If not, there is a mini course on basic chords and strumming that will take you through all the basic chords that we play on the guitar. There's also quick answer videos that can help you out with how to play different chords on the guitar, and there's the full-on Guitar 101 courses, and there's the method books that come with video lessons as well. So lots of other places to get help, but in this mini course it is all about finger picking, and I'm just going to focus on that technique, assuming that you already know the basic chords, or that if there's one you don't know, you can figure that out and still keep here right with us. So we'll go ahead and jump in. First, a little bit on the technique. So with finger picking patterns, we assign fingers to strings. So we have the index finger, the middle finger, and the ring finger of our right hand that goes over and actually plucks the strings. The pinky just moves with the ring finger. For most of us, that pinky is a good knuckle shorter or thereabouts, and in traditional style we actually don't use the pinky, it just moves with the ring finger. The other thing about the pinky is it runs on the same tendon, and it's really hard to move the pinky finger differently from the ring finger anyway. Independently they don't like to work very well together, which is something we have to work on pretty hard over here with the left hand. So with that hand, it's going to be index, middle, and ring, and then our thumb is assigned to pluck some strings as well. So the index finger is going to always pluck the 3rd string, or the G string. So that's, when I say the 3rd string, that's the 3rd string from the top. The strings are numbered starting with the high string, 1, then the next one, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Strings 4, 5, and 6 are the bass strings. Strings 1, 2, and 3 are called the treble strings. So our index finger is going to pluck that open G string, or the 3rd string. Middle finger is going to pluck the 2nd string, or the B string, and then the ring finger is going to pluck that high string, or the open E string. And they're always going to pluck those strings. That's the standard formation. Now when I say always, there's times where we will do something that's an adaptation from that standard formation. But our index finger, middle finger, and ring finger each pluck a treble string, and they each pluck the same one no matter what when we're doing finger picking patterns. So index, middle, ring, and you can kind of get used to that, just plucking those. Now our thumb, it's going to pluck one of the other strings, and it's going to depend on the chord which one it actually plucks. But it plucks strings 4, 5, and 6. For each chord it will pluck one string in this standard formation. So we'll find out as we work on an individual chord. But as we're coming around and setting our hands up, the idea is to have a natural arch. Now I'm playing one of my classical guitars. This one's been designed so you can play standing up, which works really great for lessons like this, and other times when I got to perform standing up instead of sitting down. It just works nicely. And this one sits here, but I play fingerstyle on steel string guitars all the time as well, so it can be done on any. But ideally, as our arm comes around on the right, we need a natural sort of arch between our elbow as it comes around right here in the wrist. There's going to be a natural little bit of an archway, just a little bit. If you try and hold your hand straight, you'll notice that there puts a little bit of tension. There's always just a little bit of a break when you relax. Not too much, not so much that we're pulling and that there's tension here, but just so that it's relaxed. We want that relaxed sense when we come around to the guitar. We still want to get that. My in-person students, the biggest sort of mistake I see is that they'll collapse the wrist and will end up going like this. If you hold your hand like that all day, you're also going to run into tension. So just that relaxed shape comes around. Now, the fingers curl around just a little bit so that they're under this main joint. So the fingertips should just be aligned under that main joint. And then the plucking motion is like a single-handed clap. And you think about babies even, one of the first things they can do is grab onto a finger. Our hands are designed to grab onto things and release. There's no strength in the flex, the strength is grabbing. So we want to use that as we're plucking the strings. So it's like a one-handed clap, and most of the movement is in this bigger joint with the hand. And then the thumb just pushes down. We don't want to get this joint moving at all. It's not a little waving with our thumb like a thumb puppet or something, but it's going to come from the main big muscle, really the only muscle we've got in the hand there, and we're going to push down against the strings. With the thumb, we're plucking off the side as we pluck the strings. So you can just pluck. If you've done much work with a pick, it's as if you're just, the pick is supposed to be an extension of that thumb. Now we don't have the pick, we just pluck. And you can just pluck with that thumb, and it's just sort of a motion into that finger if the finger was right there. It's just sort of a plucking motion from that. And then these fingers pull. So if you take on that low 6th string and pluck with your thumb, then you could do index, middle, ring. So thumb, index, middle, ring. And those index, middle, and ring are on the treble strings. Thumb, index, middle, ring. And you just kind of get used to that. And then you watch that you keep the natural arch. Sorry, I got caught there a little bit, but as you're lining up this main joint, it's going to be up across the fingers, are going to be right below it, and wherever that sits, like my hand's not back, sitting back where my wrist, where I don't have room for those fingers to align. When I put the fingers on the strings, I want to set up, have that main joint over top of the tips of those fingers. That's the place that it gets set up at. If I come back, I've got no room to pluck through. So I've got to be up there and have that arch so that I can pluck. And then we just want to avoid the collapse of the wrist. So we just keep that going. And it can help to practice in front of a mirror and see what your right hand looks like. It can also help to look down and say, do I have a natural archway between where the strings are and where my wrist is? Or am I bending it too far? Because that wouldn't be good. Just needs to be that natural space. Back here on my forearm, it's not all the way on my elbow. With most guitars, it's going to be kind of in the forearm area is going to be the position back here, so that I can get that positioning in the right hand. And then for me, on most guitars, sort of my central tonal palette is right at the back of the sound hole. If I have a guitar that has that center sound hole, it's going to be right at the back of it. And then sometimes for a brighter tone, I'll move back towards the bridge, or for a warmer tone, I'll move towards the fretboard. But just the standard place I go is right in between. So P-I-M-A. Now this is actually the finger picking pattern we're going to work on. But let's take a look here at these letters. So each of the fingers in the thumb are represented by a letter. And the letter comes or matches up with Spanish and Italian. The guitar was born in Spain and Italy, so it makes sense that the letters that represent our thumb and fingers actually line up with the words in Spanish and Italian that represent thumb and fingers. But P represents thumb. It's the only one that's capitalized. Pulgar in Spanish, so thumb. And then I for index, that matches up with our English words. M for middle, which also matches up with our English words. A for ring, that one doesn't match up. So it's not an R, it's an A. But like I tell a lot of my college students, it's that, I got a ring on that finger, which I've known many of friends who are girls that, they got a ring on that finger. So, and I don't know. I have lots of brothers. I don't remember any of them shouting quite like that, but they were excited. But the ring finger, I have a ring on that finger. So the excitement of that engagement when that happens. So then what happens with these letters when we have P-I-M-A, is they'll be written above a rhythmic notation. And so we have all eighth notes here in 4/4 time. Or you might see it without this, but we have to know how long each one of these is, where in a measure it's supposed to pluck. Right now the rhythm is the same, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. But when a letter sits above a rhythmic value in that part of the measure, we're going to pluck with that thumb or finger. So thumb, index, middle, ring again, thumb, index, middle, ring. And it's just that simple. Now when I'm getting started, I usually will learn a finger picking pattern on the E minor chord. And the reason is because I can pluck the low 6th string, and we're going to learn about knowing which string to pluck here in a second, but I can pluck that low 6th string, and then the 2 strings that my fingers would be on are the other bass strings, and I'm not going to play them, and then I've got the treble strings which don't have a finger on, so I can practice this one not worrying about my left hand, just worrying about the right hand. So thumb, index, middle, ring, just like that. So you can practice that with me coming off. With this finger picking pattern, it's really easy to do something known as planting, where we're going to plant the fingers before we pluck. So if we set our hand up where it belongs, as far as every string is touching the string that it's going to pluck and ready to go, then I can go thumb, index, middle, ring, and my hand just ends up like so when I've gotten it back in there. Thumb, index, middle, oops, from this position I got caught on my nail. So thumb, index, middle, ring, and I'm just there. Then I go back and reset. So I pluck thumb, index, middle, ring, and everything's up in the air. I reset, put everything where it goes, and do it again. Doing this, resetting, get these extra strings to stop ringing. If I do this, it teaches my hand kind of where to go. Now, another mistake I often see of early students is they'll like pluck, and then pluck, and then pluck. And every time if I have to find where I'm going to stick my fingers, it's going to become harder and harder. But if I can hold my wrist and keep my arm where it should be, pluck my fingers, and then reset without changing that wrist, I can find and create greater accuracy over time. And pretty soon it just becomes natural for the hand to do that. Just sets up. Now some patterns don't allow us to do that, but this one's a great one to practice that with. This is a great pattern to start with. It just gets our hand working right. Okay, so if we're going to take this to a chord progression, after I've got the pattern in my right hand working okay with that E minor chord, then we try a chord progression. I've picked a simple one that works really nicely here: G, E minor, C, and D. So just 4 chords, so you can just worry about the finger plucking. We don't have to worry about too much with these chords. So the trick with the chords, the index is always going to pluck that 3rd string, middle is always going to pluck that 2nd string, ring is always going to pluck that high string when we're in standard formation like we are. But the thumb is going to change depending on the chord. The thumb is going to pluck what we call the bass note of the chord. That's the lowest note of the chord. So as long as you can find the lowest note in any given chord voicing, that's the one your thumb's going to pluck. Now here's a couple little tricks to it. We have the open E string on the bottom, the 6th string. That means any E chord, we're going to use that one. E, E minor, E7. Any chord like that, we're going to be using that open E string because it's an E. Then the open 5th string is an A, so any A chord, we'll use that string. I just did A, and then I did A7. Here's A minor 7. Any of those chords, I'm going to use that 5th string. Then the 4th string is a D, so for any of the D chords, I'll be using that one. What happens for the rest of the chords that we play, it's the lowest string we have a finger on. So like G, the lowest string I have a finger on is the 6th string. So that bottom string, so that's the one I'm going to use. But with C, the lowest string I have a finger on is the 5th string. So that's the one I'm going to use. With F, it depends. If I'm playing that 4-string form, just the top 4 strings, then the 4th string is the one that I'm going to pluck. If I was doing the big bar chord version, I could pluck that low 6th string. B7, the lowest one I have a finger on is the 5th string, so that's the one I'm going to pluck. Okay, so for this pattern, or this chord progression here, G, E minor, C, and D, we know we're going to use the 6th string for the G, the 6th string for the E minor, the 5th string for the C, 4th string for the D. Now let's go ahead and play this as if each one of these chords had 2 measures. So that'll be going through this PiMA, PiMA twice per chord, which means PiMA is going to happen 4 times per each of these chords. Alright, so here we go. 1 and 2 and ready and go. And we've got G. Then we're going to do G again. E minor. We got C. On G, I did a pinch. I just played all the strings that my fingers pluck at once. And you can do that evenly or in sort of a broken fashion, one right after the other. That takes a little time to develop, but I did that as well. I'm going to take it again. This time we'll do 1 measure per chord. So 1 and 2 and ready and go. And we got G, E minor, Now I'm going to play it a little faster. If you're not ready to play it faster yet, that's okay. You just gradually work it until you're comfortable playing it at various tempos. But I want to sort of exemplify the sound of it playing it faster. As I play faster, it's going to be important that my fingers and my hand that I relax. If I tighten up, it actually gets harder. So I got to get myself to relax, keep the tension out of the body, and I can play it faster. So you go 1 and 2 and ready and go and... And that wraps us up for this lesson. You can practice that one at whatever tempo, and that one can be used for any song that's written in 4/4 time, actually. So if you have songs out there that you're anxious to do with finger picking, you can actually use that pattern. In the next lesson, in lesson 2, we're going to do another pattern that's similar, but we'll get our fingers working in a different fashion so we can get more independence as we work on these, work up to that skill of playing lots of different patterns. and being able to play them with music written in different meters. That's the goal of this mini course. Just gets you going. Of course, there are other books and the full-on Guitar 101 course that can go into greater detail, but I'm using this mini course to just go through with these short lessons, get us going on finger picking. Super fun technique. Love playing the guitar and doing fingerstyle. So have fun, and we'll see you next time. If you found this video helpful, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. For more in-depth lessons and to progress through a free guitar course, check out my Guitar 101 series on YouTube and my guitar method books, which all come with access to hours of in-depth video lessons. You can find more information about me and my products at KristenBromley.com. Take care.